Hi friends, welcome back. So I want to have a chat with you about jobs, economy, and retirement. And let's jump into some headlines and figure out what's going on around the world. So first, Federal Reserve's preferred inflation measure held steady at 2.5% in July. Referring to the PCE, the read just came out. Nothing surprising. It's what the street expected, about 2.5%. And remember, if you've followed the story, you'll know that the Fed wants an inflation at 2%. We're not quite there yet. However, there's a lot of pressure from politicians, Wall Street, and even your grandma telling the Fed, hey, cut rates, please cut it now. The problem is we may never get inflation to that 2% that they explicitly said that they wanted. So we'll keep an eye on that. I want to talk with you about jobs today because if we don't get inflation under control, it's really going to hurt a lot of Americans at the bottom of the economic scale. And unfortunately, the amount of Americans at the bottom is going to keep increasing. I feel like we're kind of going into this sort of world where the divide between rich and poor is getting bigger and bigger. We see that in many countries around the world, and it just seems to be increasing in the USA. And moreover, like I can see Americans are struggling. I see it every day, and I just want to show you guys and share the numbers with you. For example, this is a headline on August 30th, 2024. For more Americans, one job isn't enough. So essentially, right, people have to work more than one job. The numbers are been going up for the last couple of years. So this is showing you again how many people have more than one job, and it's just been climbing and climbing. The current number right now, again, this is people with more than one job, is about 5.3%, and it's also saying that people are struggling with prices, be it your services, goods, or rent and insurance, right? So everything goes up in price. You got to figure out how to pay for said things. And if your wage growth isn't there at your main job, then you figure out that you have to take a second job. And it's an unfortunate thing that's happening to a lot of people. Moreover, we're looking at a slowdown in job growth over the next decade. And this sort of goes over, this is data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and they tell you where the opportunities are, where they're not. I'll give you the basic rundown is that people are living longer. I think you guys know this. And essentially, if you have people living longer and an aging population, you're going to have a larger percentage of your population in the USA are going to be older people, right? Or, quote, retired. And I want to go through the details of this, and it'll kind of all make sense. So here's the headline here. U.S. workforce is seen expanding just 0.4% a year in the coming decade, right? So talking about our workforce here. It says here, one implication of the slowdown is that older people will make up a larger share of the population. So again, America is aging. Since those Americans are less likely to be working, the overall labor force participation is projected to fall some 1.4 percentage point over the decade to 61.2, with both men and women experiencing declines. And so this is our labor force participation. You can see it's in decline here, right? So essentially people are aging. They're going to retire, but this is going to have major implications to where essentially the jobs are going to be and where growth is going to be. So I think you guys could probably know this. I've said this several times on the channel. Healthcare is going to be a big field going forward, and it already is. There's a lot of people that don't want to get into it though, even though that's where the opportunity is. And so in the USA, we actually have a shortage of nurses. It's been like that for a while. When I lived in LA, we had a lot of nurses actually from the Philippines and other countries. But I mentioned the Philippines because there's really a lot of nurses from there. I'd be curious in your neck of the woods. I can speak to LA. I don't know about other states, which countries they come from. I'm talking about nurses here, but let's read this. It says here, the aging population, along with higher prevalence of chronic conditions such as heart disease, cancer, and diabetes, is expected to drive employment growth in healthcare and social assistance industry. So if you're a young person these days and you're thinking, okay, where's growth going to be? Where are the jobs? This is definitely one area. Healthcare and social assistance is not going to go away anytime soon because, again, we're going to have an aging population. People are having less kids, so you're also going to have a reduction in education jobs. You'll actually see that. I'm talking about here in Korea. We live in Busan. People are having less kids, so actually the ratio of student to teacher is going down. But also too, some schools are actually closing. I'm talking about here in Korea, and also you'll see that in USA where you have universities closing. I don't know. I can't speak to USA if you guys have like elementary schools closing and maybe consolidation, or high schools consolidating. I just don't know. This also says here too, which is an interesting one. The BLS also projects a 0.2% annual decline in retail employment. So they're saying retail is going to go down, but you probably already kind of know. So your Amazon is driving your retail jobs out. And this is something we've been seeing for a while, but I guess they're saying we're seeing more of it. And then also says it expects that automated systems, including AI, will lead to fewer jobs for office and administrative support workers. Again, these are sort of trends that we've been seeing before. So, in the past, I mentioned it several times on the channel, when I was a kid, people used to write, their how many words per minute they could type, or they would write, hey, I can use Microsoft Word. Like that used to be a kind of a, I don't say special skill, but a skill that you would note. Today, everyone knows how to do said things, or everyone can type and everyone can use Word, etc. Moreover, right, we just don't need a lot of the office jobs that we used to. Call centers, these kind of things, or any kind of like when you go to a website and ask for help, you often get the robot first. And even when you call on the phone, you get the robot first, not necessarily a person. But these are sort of the trends. So just think about all the things that, and this, if you guys are talking about the markets, think about, okay, if we have a larger, older population going forward, how are companies going to adjust and sell to, said population? And that's sort of where why we track these kind of things to understand it. The other thing too, which I think was interesting when we're talking about the Fed, and again, we're talking about the economy, the Fed, and the population and jobs. Fed favored inflation gauges mild gains, set stage for rate cut. Yep, that's what Wall Street is pushing for. And this is something that's really fascinating. I thought this was the key sentence right here. While spending picked up, income growth was much more sluggish and the savings rate declined. That may raise questions about the durability of consumer spending going forward, right? So this right here, which I'm showing you, I think is one of the key lines. And I've said it so many times on the channel why people are struggling, right? So if you feel like your rent, your mortgage, your insurance is basically the cost to live is expanding, but your income isn't keeping up with that. So some people are getting a second job, maybe some people are downsizing, right? You got to figure out how to make it work. Some people are eating in their savings, some people are using their credit cards more, right? And so then when I talk about this stuff, and that's why it says here the raise question the durability of consumer spending. I show you all this stuff because like when say Apple makes their announcement on September 9th, hey guys, we got a bunch of new phones, they're going to be awesome, they got AI. Like, are the customers going to line up for that, right? Is that what people want? Is the people sitting at home who are now retired, we have a larger population, or older, they're like, hey, yeah, I need the latest and greatest phone, I'm going to upgrade my phone every year, that kind of thing. Do you guys see what I'm saying? Like we may see change in products and change of industries to reflect who your consumer population is and sort of what they want. You'll actually see this often too in companies who sort of service the population. So I'll give you an example. We just talked about recently with Tesla. I don't have the article here, but I can just tell you, we talked about recently where they're developing new products, and the rumor is they're going to have like a 7-seat car coming out. And it's interesting, like when you put this together with say the population, if people are having less kids, for example, why would I want a 7-seat car? For real, do you guys see what I'm saying here? Or if people are struggling to just pay their rent, etc., and I'm building luxury cars, but not necessarily like an affordable vehicle, right? Like, how does that make sense? Do you guys understand how you want to track the population, what's happening with them, and also to sort of which companies are addressing where the opportunities are? I want to show you something else which I think is important as well. This is an interesting one. So people are saying that they may work longer, and they're kind of concerned about retirement. And this is sort of, it corroborates with everything else that we've seen. So it says here, the new middle class retirement plan, working into old age, right? So let me give you an example here. And it's actually interesting that how they define middle class. So it says, about half of middle class incomes who are currently employed say they expect to work past age 65. Okay, and this is coming from Transamerica Center for Retirement Studies. While many say that is their preference, roughly 8 in 10 cite financial pressures, right? So, people will say they want to work past 65, but then a lot of people say, well, they kind of have to, including shortfall of savings. So you haven't saved enough money, and you're worried about Social Security. I've said this so many times on the channel. Just plan for a future without Social Security. Now, it doesn't mean it's going to collapse. It doesn't mean that at all, right? But I just don't count on it because we don't. I would say, if anything, they may cut the benefits for that because we just are having a shortfall. And just if you plan without Social Security, right, and then you get your Social Security, fantastic, right, and it'll sort of help you to plan, accordingly, right? So you essentially give yourself a safety net, which is Social Security was what it's supposed to be for. I know for a lot of people though, they depend entirely on Social Security, and I mean that's just, and unfortunately, just how our population is going. If we have a larger portion of people who are going to be older, they're probably gonna have to raise the retirement age also for Social Security. That's just something I predict. Also says here too, Transamerica defines middle class, right? It depends how you want to define it, but they're saying with income of people between $50,000 to $200,000 a year, and that's about 55% of U.S. adults. So, over half the people are saying, hey, they're going to work past 65. The other thing is too, which I think is interesting to mention, is that we're also seeing people struggle in China. And I mention this stuff because sometimes, you get focused on just one country and you think, oh, it's just all us and it's only us and we're the only people out there in the world. But guys, we're all connected. If there's a slowdown sort of globally, it sort of all happens at the same time. In China, this was something with all the real estate companies. It was like literally like 3 different reports of 3 different companies saying, hey, they're losing money for the first time. It's like we're talking about $1 billion a year, that kind of stuff. First time in 20 years and this kind of thing. And what they're doing in China, I guess, they're trying to work out a thing where maybe everyone refinances their mortgage at the same time. Like, okay, it's like we're talking about a massive amount of money here. I mean, you can read the headline. China considers allowing refinancing on, get this, 5.4 trillion in mortgages. They're just trying to figure out, okay, if we can get everyone to at least start paying a little bit, right, restructure all this debt that we have over there, maybe we can get consumer shopping again. Essentially what's going on is in the USA, it's a consumer-driven economy. You need the people to be shopping to make the system work. China has been modernized economy and they're going that direction. And essentially if people aren't shopping, they can't modernize and they can't grow. And I don't know if we all consider shopping to be the pinnacle of of modernity. That's a whole other topic, and it's something for sociologists to argue, or you could say anthropologists to argue over. But if you want to talk about the economy in China, though, they are slowing in their growth. They're also having population decline. It's a similar thing that you see in Korea, you see in Japan, and kind of USA is going that direction. There's no easy fix for this kind of stuff because, like, okay, if you have all these older people that want to live the lifestyle that their parents had and retired, we'll say 60 or 65, and then sail off into the sunset. But the problem is if inflation is like out of control, it make it harder to do that, right? And then the other issues too is like there's a difference. So say the baby boomers, depending on how many kids they have in their life, you may have a bunch of kids to take care of you. And this is something that you'll see in Asia actually, is that kids are expected to take care of the parents. The parents often move in with the kids, or the kids live nearby. USA, that's going to depend on your family. I know the USA is a much, how can I say, geographically more dispersed country. So people will get jobs in various cities. In places in Asia, it's not quite like that. China is closer to the USA, but I'll just say like a place like Korea, half the population lives in one city. So, and oftentimes it's hard to really change. It's a complicated issue. It's hard to change the system because if that's where the jobs are and that's where your family lives, that's where you want to go. We live in Busan, which is only a couple hours from Seoul. And actually, we're going to go up to Seoul in a couple weeks. That's where my wife's parents live. So we, can't really move that far away. My wife keeps clamoring to move to Seoul. But my personal opinion is like Busan's way, way better because we're on the ocean and I like seafood, and I think the weather's better. Well, I don't think the weather's better here as well. It's warmer in the winters, cool in the summers. If you go to Seoul, it's colder in the winters, hotter in the summers. So to me, it's obvious that Busan's a better place. But again, there's a lot of social pressure. Her friends are up there, her family's up there, et cetera. And so we talk about that quite a bit. Anyway, that's a personal topic, but a long topic. But I'm bringing that up because when you, when you plan out your retirement, you want to think about, what is a sustainable life for you, right? What's your sort of spending going to be? What's your income going to be? What are your assets and your management going to be? And also, too, what are your debt levels? I know, again, this is all complicated issues. I don't expect to solve all of your problems in just one fair swoop. But I do want you to understand sort of what's going on with the overall economy. And again, I point this out to you, which I think is the key one when people say, stocks are going to infinity. I just think, guys, I just see so many consumers struggling out there. I'm not necessarily seeing it. So for me, I'm more defensive these days, right? So, I'm thinking like dividend stocks, bonds, CDs. If you do want to go stocks, something like the S&P 500, that kind of thing. I know there's a lot of people who got in the market for the first time and they're thinking, oh my God, the growth stocks are going to be there forever and technology always leads the way. And I'll just say not necessarily, because I don't see the continued growth in USA like we've had in the past for all the reasons that I'm showing you. So anyway, I'd like to hear your thoughts on any one of these things. I know we're talking about a lot of complicated stuff on this channel, but I think it's best to let you know what's going on in the world so you're not panicked all the time and you kind of see what's happening. So thanks again, and I'll catch you all in the next video.